got busted wearing the same shirt as in the intro.
I was a little jealous. I was thinking I should wear my green shirt today.
Yeah.
We should coordinate our...
Well, here we are. Hello. Hello, and thank you for watching Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit. I'm going to tell you a little something about the man sitting next to me, all right? This man right here, Mike Roth, has forgotten more about movies. Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
Period.
Period. End of sentence. That's Mike Roth.
Yeah, I don't remember much.
This week we have one of the big movies of the year. When you look back we started in January, and you looked at this year, this was one of the big movies that we're talking about this week. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, sequel to one of the big superhero movies.
One of my favorite movies a couple of years ago.
Right.
Matter of fact, I think I put that as my number one.
I believe it was your number one 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And here we are with Volume 2.
Yeah.
It's the only movie we have to discuss on the marquee this week, but we have a great throwback, and we are also going to be talking another list about our top 5, our favorite fantasy sci-fi movies. And I'm really looking forward to that discussion.
Yep.
But first, let's get into our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Director James Gunn is back with his sequel to the mega hit superhero film. We bring back all of your characters that you know and love. We have Star-Lord, who is leading the team of Guardians. And it feels like we don't know how much time has really passed. But they've come together as a team, because we open up with big action immediately, huge action scene, and it feels like they've done this a few times. Yeah. It's kind of like old hat for them now. Yeah. They're kind of goofing around. And throughout it all, it is a great opening where we get Baby Groot right away. Yeah. There's action going on in the background. You can't really see what's going on because it's all Baby Groot dancing.
I'm just going to throw this in. I'm amazed that they get Vin Diesel to do this. I mean, all he has to do was say, "I am Groot." And in this time, of course, it's Baby Groot, so they changed the pitch. Totally unrecognizable, but I bet they paid good money so they could get that voice.
Ridiculous amount of money for that. So, like I say, we have the team back together, and this movie is a movie that is a lot about family. A lot of family dynamics going on in here. Star-Lord, of course, still searching for his father. We get to meet him right away, and it's no spoiler because it's in the trailers. That Kurt Russell is in this movie as, this is Guardians of the Galaxy 1. That's a good movie. Enjoy this trailer because that's a good movie too. So Kurt Russell is in as Ego, who is Star-Lord's father, and we also have Gamora and her sister Nebula. Again, our little sibling rivalry. Nebula is, she's still upset.
Which we just saw Nebula last week in the Circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this is a good movie right here.
It is a great movie. It's my favorite movie 3 years ago.
Wish we had the new one. Anyways, the team is off guarding batteries, very precious batteries for the sovereign people, sovereign planet. And of course, that crazy rocket steals some of these batteries, and now the planet sovereign are after the Guardians to open the movie. And it offers one of the really cool visuals, I think, from this movie is the planet sovereign. They have these, what do they call, remote pilots. So they just send out all of these drone ships, and they have these remote pilots. It's like a 1980s arcade. Everyone locked in, like VR style, back home on the planet, and just manning the different ships.
Well, in a way, it was a lot like Ender's Game in that way. And I was pretty excited because that's like one of my favorite books. I mean, if you ever read it.
I mean, and so Rocket and Groot, we have Baby Groot. Rocket and Groot, their relationship is different now because Groot is more like a wild child, and Rocket is more trying to control him to keep him out of trouble. And you have the father-son dynamic with Star-Lord, Peter, and his father, Ego. And Yondu, Michael Rooker, is back in this one. And for my money, his character arc in this movie is the best part of this film. He is dealing with the effects from the previous movie and what he did in the first movie, and the Ravagers are not very happy. Led by Sylvester Stallone, by the way. We get Sly back.
Crazy.
We get Sly in the Marvel Universe. So we get a We get a reuniting of them. This is basically like cliffhanger 2 for me, getting those two back together. You also get a little Tango and Cash reuniting. And the movie is just, I mean, it is much like the first one. It is big, fun, a lot of laughs. I think more jokes in this movie than the first one.
Yeah, especially when it came to Drax. I mean, Drax was funny in the first one, but in this one, it was almost getting goofy. Now, I did think the humor was great. He had some great jokes. I love it when they meet up with the alien girl. Mantis. And we've seen this one in the
She's an empath. She feels emotions, and in the trailer you see, she's like, oh, you love her.
Yeah, most people would be just, sensitive. But, of course, Drax is not, and he's just,
It was weird, because probably half of Drax's lines were just, like, in parentheses, burst out laughing. Yeah. Burst out laughing. Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do. It was weird getting that much laughing from Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah. Well, especially with that last name.
Yeah. I love the intro to Kurt Russell. Drax, of course, takes everything literal. So he says, there was a 1-inch man on top of a ship, because you see Kurt Russell from far away. Of course, this movie, you get more Howard the Duck in this movie.
Yeah, which I was a little surprised. I'm wondering if they're trying to tease a reboot on that mess.
This is twice now, 2 for 2 that they mention Howard the Duck in this universe.
He's actually a viable character in the Marvel Universe, and he would fit in perfect Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just most people remember him from the Ron Howard film, and they don't want him back because
that was a George Lucas joint right
there. Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that was George Lucas working on that bad boy. Yeah, and there's a lot of fun in this movie. Talking about Drax, my one kind of beef with this movie is it felt like it was just a little too much jokey joke with him.
Yeah.
I would have just pulled that back some. But there was, it felt like James Gunn was really ambitious with going for bigger and going for more ambitious effects in this movie. And the story it's fine.
Yeah, in my opinion. I was actually, now, I love this movie. But I was disappointed when I found out the bulk of this movie was just going to be about Peter Quill and Ego.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's bad. I was just saying, I wanted more. The first movie really knocked it out of the park for me. I loved how they did the character development for each person. And this one, it felt like they scaled back on a couple of characters. I really wanted to hear more about Rocket. He actually has a tragic story.
Yes, absolutely. I want Rocket's story more.
Yeah, and we lost that so that we could have a buddy comedy between him and Groot. A lot of the Groot comedy, I laughed, but
it's the same joke.
It's the same joke over and over again. It's Baby Groot, and it's that cutesy comedy that you get in so many other cartoons right now.
And you hit on something big, because this movie, a lot of it is the characters looking back on their lives and choices that they've made, especially the ones that are dealing with family problems. And I wanted Rocket to look back in the choices that he made, because it's a huge character, and he's got a lot of meat on the bone there.
Yeah.
And it feels like we just skirt around that every time. But there were some really good moments. I love. I mean, like I say, Michael Rooker's Yondu was my favorite part of this movie. Great quote that I love from this, where Yondu, who's the man who was just killing people left and right in the first movie. In this movie, I cannot get out of my head, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! Is Mary Poppins cool? I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! It's great. I love seeing Michael Rooker really get a meaty role to dig into like this.
And he's actually a really good guy. We met him at Comic-Con. And
he's great, but he's always been kind of the character actor guy, In this movie, it felt like he got some real ground to cover with this character.
Yeah.
You get a David Hasselhoff cameo in here,
which I thought was a little odd, but interesting.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, what did you think of Volume 2 of this?
I really loved the film, but I did not have the same kind of reaction I did with the first one. And, of course, that happens with all sequels. But with me, I think what held it back was the story was just okay. And the character development, we got a lot of Peter Quill, but we really got very little from the rest of the characters. Drax is a great character. Rocket, deep, tragic character, yet funny at the same time. Groot, he's the same Groot, except for it's Baby Groot.
And Nebula barely moved either. Like, her issue with her and Gamora felt like it didn't really progress very much from the second movie. She still got a lot of beef with Thanos.
Yeah.
She wants to bring pain to Thanos, but they only took a baby step in their development in this.
I would guess what I would call the chemistry between those two characters. I really didn't feel that at all. The action scenes are great. Their little side story is interesting, but I want a little bit more heart and a little bit less funny, which I thought I got a perfect balance with the first movie.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. The first movie, I think, is a great Marvel movie.
Yeah.
This one, I think, was a really good Marvel movie.
Exactly.
Still a lot of fun. Still a movie that I've seen a couple times. I'm looking forward to seeing again.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun with it. The first one knocked it out of the park, especially with it was really difficult to sell these characters and do everything that they did with that movie. Take a group of unknown characters, do what they did. And this time it felt like, cool, where's the next step? And the next step wasn't the big step I wanted. It was just kind of a small step.
I felt like they made this movie thinking this is what the audience want. Yeah. Where the first movie, it was like, this is brand new, and
we really have to do something with this. Yeah,
I'm hoping this is not going to be the progression of Guardians of the Galaxy, because it is a fantastic film. But if it keeps on getting, the audience just wants explosions.
I don't want this to be the jokey joke side of the Marvel universe. As much as I enjoy it, I don't want it to just be, oh, this is the comedic portion of it.
Yeah.
You know, give me a little more. But ultimately, what did you give Volume 2?
I gave it a 4.5. It's still a great movie. I suggest everybody flock to this thing.
I think everyone has.
The first one, yeah, they made tons of money.
Yeah.
But it lacked a little bit of what I thought was perfect about the first one, and I did think the first movie was perfect.
Yeah, I kind of am right there with you. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. The first one I gave a 5. This one I give a 4. I still had a lot of fun. I love these Guardians movies. I'm looking forward to Volume 3.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack again. A lot of fun. Just want a little more character development.
And everybody stay through the whole thing.
Right, obviously. There's 5 stinger scenes. Stop being an idiot and leaving, because when I went, it was like a progression. More people would leave after each one. Like, what? 2 more minutes. You'll see everything.
They're going to have another cutscene in 1 more minute.
I'm tired of arguing with people about
it. And really, that entire, even the scrolling, it was fun. They don't fade to black. You have a lot of cartoons
Great
and
outro
things going
music.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved how every once in a while you'd see a name going, I am Groot.
Right, yeah, and it would change over.
Flip over.
I noticed that. Good stuff. All right, let's take a quick look back to a movie we're going to throw back to. Another movie that is, explain how this is our throwback.
Well, it's funny, and it's sci-fi fantasy, but we always hit Star Wars because we love it so much. So we went to Spaceballs.
Spaceballs, the Mel Brooks satire of Star Wars, among other things. Lawrence of Arabia is satired in this. It is one of Mel Brooks' greatest films.
Yeah.
And for my money, this is Rick Moranis is just killing it in this movie.
Yeah.
As Dark Helmet. So much fun. You bring a really weird cast of characters together with John Candy, Bill Pullman in his first leading role ever, as Lone Star and Barf, the pseudo Han Solo, and Chewbacca trying to save Princess Vespa, played by Daphne Zuniga, and Dot Matrix. And you have Rick Moranis, and it's
Lord Helmet.
Hilarity ensues, and of course you have Mel Brooks himself in here as 2 different roles,
Yogurt.
as Scroob and Yogurt.
Yep.
And it's some of the great writing of Mel Brooks, proving why he is probably the best comedic writer-director we've had. And there's so many great scenes, especially for me with Rick Moranis. The scene where he's playing with the Spaceballs action figures, playing out the scene of like, no, oh, I love you. I think one of the most brilliant ideas was, we can't find them. How do we find Lone Star and Barf? I know. Let's watch the end of the movie on VHS.
Mel Brooks is famous for taking people out and then, I would say my favorite scene is the classic scene in Empire Strikes Back where Darth Vader is telling Luke the surprise that no one saw coming is, I am your father. In this movie, they replay that, but Lord Helmet is just like, yes, I'm your father's roommate's uncle's brother. And what does that make us? Nothing.
I mean, just the intro of the Darth Vader coming in, and then the gasping and wheezing, and he flips it up, and it's Rick Moranis. I can't breathe in this thing. Ludicrous Speed is a great, iconic scene.
Yep.
You know, it's so much fun. I love this movie.
If you have not seen this movie, you are missing out. You definitely have to check it out. Actually, I don't think I own this in my movies.
Michael.
Yeah.
Rectify that immediately. It's got a beautiful Blu-ray that came out just recently.
I'm going to have to probably...
I'll tell you what, a little secret. When this movie first came out in 1987, I want to say, I hated this movie.
Really?
Because I was such a Star Wars fanboy, I thought they were making fun of something I loved.
Yeah.
And it felt to me like Mel Brooks was making fun of a family member. You don't get to do that. And then it took me a couple watchings to be like, oh, this is all in love.
Yeah.
Oh, they're making fun of a lot of things, like the merchandising part of Star Wars that runs throughout this movie.
Yep.
And then now it's one of my favorite comedies of all time. But at the time, I remember being very upset the first time I saw this movie. Like, how dare you make fun of this? This is sacrilege.
I can see that. I actually had a conversation with somebody today about Star Wars, and he's like, you could do anything Star Wars, and Star Wars nerds will love it. It's like, no.
Except when they
not
don't.
really, yeah.
Except
when they don't, then it's venomous.
Then we get the people versus George Lucas. So, like I said, we have a list to end the show here, which is, it's really interesting to me. So we're going to go with our top 5 favorite fantasy sci-fi films. And this is a really, when we first came up with this list, it sounded like, this is pretty easy. We want to kind of narrow it down. Star Wars, of course, is the leader. This is the header for this, but we took Star Wars out because our list would just be Star Wars movies.
And then after that, it was trying to define
what is fantasy Star Wars.
Yeah.
Fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah.
There's sci-fi horror, there's straight sci-fi, there's all these different things. And it was really tough for me to nail down. You and I have had many text conversations over the week trying to come up with it. I went out, I surveyed. I've never done this before. I surveyed a bunch of fellow podcasters and a couple of filmmakers I knew, asking for their definitions and throwing some titles at them, like, what would you put these at? And they were all over the place. Yeah. No one agreed, which was really interesting to me. Like, okay, so I'm not the only one that's messed up.
And you can't even,
no one agrees.
And you can't even go by the actual websites. Like Matrix, for example, for me, even though it feels like a fantasy, and it definitely is sci-fi, they explained the science where it felt like, even though highly, highly improbable, it doesn't feel like it's impossible.
Right. And even now, I still don't feel great about my parameters.
No,
there was a few movies that I had on my list right away. Like when we talked about it, I instantly, number 1, I know what it is. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I disqualified that from my list. Inception. Disqualified that. Mad Max Fury Road. Suddenly, my top 3, they're all washed away.
I remember you texted me about Mad Max, and it's like, well, yeah, but...
It's tough, right?
Yeah, it is. It's tough.
So... I can't really argue my list because it's tough for me to defend.
The ones that I knew were sure hits were ones I didn't want to put on a list. So with Dune and He-Man.
Yeah, I had Krull. No,
Nice.
I don't like that movie. I don't want to put it on my list, but it is. It definitely fits the parameters. But having said all that, let's go right into what your number 5 favorite fantasy sci-fi film is.
Okay, this one almost didn't make my list. Men in Black. I love the soundtrack. I love the comedy. What made it sci-fi fantasy for me is a lot of these aliens are a complete impossibility. But I love the whole premise of there's a group of people right here on Earth that deal with a world that no one else can see or know about. And I just love the action. I love the comedy. I love the soundtrack. Unfortunately, sequel wasn't something I loved, but Men in Black, that's my number 5, and I almost booted it off the list because, well, is it possible that we could have an organization that's tight?
I think it fits.
It could be possible.
I think it fits.
I let it go.
All right.
What is your number 5?
My number 5, I kind of went with an easy one. It's E.T. E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
See, I have that on my list, and then I was thinking, well.
The alien comes down. He makes friends with young Elliot. It's fantasy. It's sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's so hard to...
I really juggled it. But E.T. is such a sweet movie. I love this movie. Watch it pretty regularly with the kids.
When you were a kid, were you always wanting a sequel where you could actually see E.T.'s homeworld?
Yes, absolutely.
When
you see the final scene of him getting on the ship and you see, oh, there's a bunch of those guys?
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah.
I want to know. But yeah, we didn't get it. So number 5, E.T. Your number 4, sir.
Number 4, Serenity. If you've never seen the television show, and the reason why this is on my list is because mainly the television show was fantastic, but viewers did not pick it up. So it ended up canceling after a couple of seasons.
Right. One season.
It's unfortunate, but I love the mixture of Old West and science fiction put together. It's, of course, an impossibility because this is emulating a lot of American Old West iconic stuff, but you know, this is out in space where I don't even think they've heard of Earth. And the character development is awesome. The characters are awesome. I just love this entire series. And when they came out with a movie, I was so pleased. I was happy with it. I would like another one, and of course, that's one of those internet rumors
Right.
that will never happen.
Yeah.
We will never.
We
see.
might do it.
Yeah,
Don't
it
hold
won't
your
happen.
breath. My number 4, Mike. All right, my number 4. This movie is 115 years old. Yeah. From 1902, A Trip to the Moon.
Wow.
Now, our station manager here, Mr. Jeff Robbins, said I put this on the list just to sound intellectual.
Yeah.
That's his shot he took at me. No, I love this movie. Trip to the Moon from Georges Méliès, one of the first sci-fi movies about, I mean, he stars as this scientist who says, I'm going to go to the moon. And, I mean, this is 1902. It's a 13-minute movie.
Yeah.
I've watched it a dozen times. There's it's on Netflix. There's 2 versions, the black and white version and the long-lost hand-painted version, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like I say, I've watched it a dozen times, and I always find more things that going on in the background. And just, I'm amazed by what they were able to do. 1902, and the effects that they were able to use, all very practical.
Yeah.
I love this movie. And it has, you see right here, this is one of the more iconic shots of that era.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. This is a great film. I mean, it's fun to watch, and yeah, it's only 13 minutes long, and yeah, there's no sound, but the history alone and what they had to do in order to make this movie makes this movie great. There's actually a movie that...
Hugo was based off Georges Méliès.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's both versions, black and white and color, on Netflix. You can watch them. It takes 13 minutes. Mute them, though, because the black and white version has some horrible hip-hop music, or the color version has some horrible hip-hop version of music going over the top of it. And the black and white has somebody like now dubbing in some audio. Just mute that, watch the movie. Yeah. It's so much fun. I love it.
I do like the colored version. Because
yeah, I do.
I do picture people painstakingly
because you can watch as the colors move around. Because this frame, they put that color a little off from the other one. So you see the colors of the shirts shifting all over the place because they're inventing this as they're going along.
And that makes it great. It really makes it's a great movie.
So that's my number 4. Your number 3.
Number 3, another one of those that always fish you in of a sequel that's never going to happen. Hellboy.
Oh.
Yes.
Hey, now we just announced this week Hellboy reboot coming.
Reboot, and I'm excited, but a little sad at the same time because it's not going to have Del Toro or
Ron Perlman.
And both of those guys really campaigned hard to get the third movie made. This movie completely fantasy. You got Hellboy, who obviously is a spawn from hell that just wants to be one of the guys, cuts off his horns and stuff like that. It is fantastic funny. It is fantastic action, and Del Toro always makes a beautiful film.
Yeah.
Whether or not you like the stories or not that Del Toro does is besides the fact he makes art.
Absolutely.
And Hellboy is, I think, the perfect combination of a cast that's getting along really well, good chemistry, good storyline, great action. Definitely, you have to see this movie too.
Love it. Love it. And a good sequel too. I like
good
Hellboy
sequel,
too.
yeah. And I was really looking forward to the third because you're promising
Not
stuff.
happening.
And
my number 3 movie is a movie that you actually talked about just a couple minutes ago. It is the movie version of Firefly. It is Serenity.
oh, nice!
I love this movie so much. I love Firefly. I love Serenity. It's as close as I was getting to a Star Wars feel during this time period. I love this cast and the chemistry together. I just love being on the Serenity with them.
Well, all sci-fi is a lot like a Western anyways, and this one actually put it together. And,
beautiful.
And then the movie put in zombies.
Yeah.
What?
I love Serenity. I love Firefly. And you can watch the entirety of the entire thing in a matter of a day.
Yeah.
The series and the movie, why not?
And then you're sad afterwards because
really
it's
are.
done,
Yep.
and they're never going to bring it back.
Never happening.
Never.
So that's my number 3. Your number 2, sir.
My number 2 is kind of cheap because we were talking about that at the beginning of our
yes.
show. We even showed a trailer. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Is that your number 2?
Oh, no. Sorry. You didn't hear that. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I know your list.
A great movie, complete fantasy, funny, based obviously on the book. There is so much quirky things, and Hitchhikers actually kind of made me think about the fantasy role too much, because even Hitchhikers explains the fantasy part with an improbability machine.
Sure.
And you know, it's not possible, but, well, it's not impossible, it's just highly improbable.
Improbable.
That people will be made out of yarn, or whales would fall from the sky, but... Yeah, it's a fun, quirky movie. It really is.
Good book series, too.
It's beautiful, too.
My number 2 is a movie that came out in 1995. It is a French movie called City of Lost Children, starring Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
This movie is like a French fever dream where you have an old man, an old scientist who is stealing children's dreams in order to stay young. You have this brain in a fish tank that is talking through a phonograph. You have a young girl in search of her brother who has been kidnapped by this scientist. You have Ron Perlman as a French strongman who is trying to help this girl. It's crazy colors, it is intense.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes in all of movies is there's this little old lady, tiny old lady who is kind of running things, and at one point she gets a harpoon put through her, and she goes, "I'm allergic to steel." You have a harpoon through you. You're worried about an allergy. It is an insane movie, but it's just awesome. It is so much fun, and if you want to see Ron Perlman try and speak French,
yeah,
it's it's worth the watch on its own.
It's a pretty dark film, too.
It's very dark. They're stealing children.
Yeah.
Children are missing. They're just stealing them for their dreams. I love this movie, though. It's a fever trip.
It's a good movie.
All right, that's my number 2. Your number 1,
okay,
we
my number 1 was
foreshadowed.
already spoiled. Guardians of the Galaxy.
There you go.
It is a fantastic film. It was my favorite film 3 years ago. It still stands up. And I'm going to give a nod to the entire Marvel Universe, because really the Marvel Universe with Thor and all these other X-Men and all these people, they have this science-type explanation, but there's no way, even with a mutant gene or a spaceship or any of these other things, is this possible in any world. It's impossible. It's complete fantasy, and I love every moment of it. I really do.
Absolutely. Nice. My number 1, I finish it off with a good old-fashioned tie. I have 2 movies that are similar in style and substance. It is The Last Starfighter and Tron Legacy. 2 movies about somebody going into a video game, kind of. One is going into a video game, one is the video game recruiting you to do the real-life version. Both movies are very sci-fi. Tron Legacy is really fantasy, too, when you go into the world, right, and everything that's going on in there.
I got into a huge neon fix after that.
Yeah?
I wanted my life to be neon and
Yeah,
black.
I love both of these movies, and they're a ton of fun.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. I'm not arguing at all.
Good. I wasn't going to start a fight. So those are our favorite fantasy sci-fi movies. Let's take a quick look ahead at what is going to be coming out soon. A weekend after this, we are going to have 3 movies on the marquee. The first one is Alien Covenant, the long-awaited Alien something movie. Ridley Scott recently came out and said he's sorry for Prometheus. Came out today. Apologized for Prometheus.
I like Prometheus. I'm sorry.
He's apologizing. We also have Wakefield, and we have Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul.
My daughter is totally against this movie because of the change of the characters. Well, that's unfortunately, you're going to get that for the rest of your life.
That you are.
It's going to be reboot.
Get used to disappointment. Before we leave you, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We here at Real Reviews love the Palace Cinema. You guys are awesome. If you want to find more from us, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Real Reviews TV, at Real Reviews TV will get you where you need to go. We're always on there. You can find more episodes from us. If you want to see previous reviews from us, you can find us on ksun.tv or search on YouTube, Real Reviews KSun. Next week, we're going to be talking about Snatched.
Yeah.
King Arthur.
Yeah, and we got a really cool throwback.
Fun throwback, absolutely. But you have to tune in next week in order to find out what that is. So stick around. Yeah, the dial.